Good afternoon, guys and gals. Thank you so much for joining us again today. My name is Tyler Fenn. I'm the Director of Sales here at REDX. You've seen me on a handful of these podcasts in the past, and you'll see me on a handful in the future. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited that we can keep this going. We are attempting to try to find agents and teams and other real estate professionals who are finding success even in these uncertain times. We're looking to create stability in your business. We're looking for those opportunities that may not be super obvious, and we're going to try to identify some more of those today. I've got Joe with me from the Emilio Despirito team out on the East Coast. Joe, thank you so much for being with me today. I'm excited. We're going to have some good conversation. I would love for you to take just a second, introduce yourself, and then we'll get underway. We'll have some good conversation here today.
Yeah, sounds good. So thanks again for having me on. I'm Joe Fazio with the Despirito team out of Rhode Island and tiny little Rhode Island. We have offices in Warwick, Smithfield, and Newport. I'm the operations manager for the team, and I also sell for the team. So manage our inside office staff and help mentor our agents. Awesome.
Thank you. We're glad that you're with us today. And you'd mentioned that there's some crazy storms blowing through, so hopefully those.
Yeah, but popping warnings up on my phone. So
all right. Well, yeah, hopefully our internet connections stay nice and strong through the storms. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm excited, and we had some good pre-podcast conversation here, so I've got some good ideas and things that I want us to talk about. But one of the things that you'd mentioned before we got started here, Joe, was that prior to states starting to shut down because of the COVID pandemic, you guys were already starting to make some changes because there was maybe some writing on the wall, right? That there was to be some things that were required. Can you walk us through that a little bit? What were maybe maybe some of the cues or the indicators that you guys saw that made you think, hey, we need to start adapting right away?
Honestly, it was just how quickly this whole thing spread. Like, we were hearing about it in other countries here and there, and then all of a sudden it's all over like America. So the rate of the spread and the danger that they made us sound kind of told us we should start getting some contingency plans in place in case they do a lockdown and not allowing gatherings of more than so many people. So we actually came up with systems to make all different parts of the transaction virtual if we ever needed them. And then obviously we ended up needing them very quickly. So I'm thankful that we thought ahead and put those in place.
That's awesome. I don't think that's super common for a lot of business, right? To have businesses to have this continuity plan in place. How do we continue to operate given, insert crazy scenario here, right? And I don't think that 6 months ago any of us were thinking pandemic could be one of those scenarios, right? Yeah. I think a lot of times we go, well, what happens if my office burns down? Like, then how do I continue to operate? But you guys saw that in the spread of COVID-19, and you guys were like, hey, we need to start making changes right away.
Yeah, and the goal was to keep our business going. I mean, there's 6 agents on our teams. There's three salary positions. We got to keep everybody fed, keep them healthy. So, our whole goal was to keep business flowing as normal, with the precautions needed.
Have you seen in your area a lot of agents hunkering down and hiding under the bed, so to speak? I mean, a lot of people just maybe shutting the doors and going, hey, I'll just get back to it when things go back to normal.
Definitely. I don't know if it's that or if it's just like there's a bad stereotype going around. People saying the market's dead. There's no real estate business out there. We're seeing tons of business, tons of opportunity. You just got to look. You got to pick up the phone. I mean, everybody's home. Unless you're an essential worker, everybody's home. It's the perfect time to hop on a dialer, make some calls. Keep in touch with your past clients, get some referral business going.
That's awesome. Let's talk about that for just a little bit if we can.
Yeah.
And before we do, let me just welcome everybody who's watching from around North America. Thank you for joining us. I know that we have a lot of repeat visitors every single day to the podcast. Thank you. We appreciate you coming and spending your time. We like to spend our time helping. So we're glad that there's people there that are digesting this material. If you're not watching it on our website, you might be on YouTube or on Facebook. So if you guys have questions, feel free to insert those into the comments. We've got people from our marketing team who are watching all of those different channels, and all of that will get fed back to me. So if there's questions, we'll make sure that Joe can get those answered for you. But Joe, let's talk about Sphere. of influence for just a little bit. You mentioned, hey, this is a great time to get out there, start contacting everybody while they're home. What is it that you guys do to keep in touch with your past clients in order to generate that referral business?
Yeah, so I mean, we're not all over them. We're not we don't send them. I'm not trying to bash anybody, but we don't send them recipes. We don't send them daylight savings reminders. We always provide value. Amelia runs a radio show every week, so we're constantly getting videos of awesome information from top professionals, and we have our video editor put those into a nice edited segment that we can send out informational things to people. If a couple of years goes by, we have a task in our CRM for us to send updated home values to our past sellers or buyers, just to keep them in the loop, not asking them if they're ready to sell, but just keeping them up to date on their home value. The whole goal is to be top of mind when the topic of real estate comes up, right? I mean, that should be anybody's goal. So when these people think real estate, we want them to think the Spirito team. So
I love the idea of sending updated home values, right? Especially, for the past several years, as home values have constantly been on the rise, since 2012, 2013. A lot and interest rates are going the opposite direction, right? I mean, that's a fantastic opportunity for people to refinance, lower their payments, pull cash out. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for people. I love the idea of hey, here's what's going on with your property, and I love that. Let's say you come across an agent who is not doing anything for their sphere. Yeah. What do you feel like is the easiest thing that they could do just to begin communicating with their sphere of influence, their past clients and leads on a regular basis?
Send them something of value, like even if it's not, a home value. I mean, to me, that's the best thing you could do to start a conversation. Send out an updated home value and just kind of gauge the conversation like, hey, just wanted to let you know what's going on with your house and your equity and your home value. I'm here if you need anything, something as simple as that. You could also, we're big on video rather than a long novel. We want to send a video somebody can watch, or even just a video with a market update. Hey, I hope you're doing well. I just want to keep you up to date on your neighborhood, and this is what's happening. Go through actives, pending, solds, whatever you think. The whole thing is don't gauge it don't be a salesperson. Just provide value, provide knowledge, and educate them so you're top of mind when the topic comes up.
I love that. Keeping in touch with people. It doesn't have to be complicated. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, right? Is they go, well, I need this system in place before I can do anything. But it's like you guys when you saw the writing on the wall for the pandemic. You just said, hey, we just need to make a change.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that agents can do right away if they're not doing anything to communicate with their sphere. Just begin, right? And it doesn't have to be complex. They don't have to have video editors, although that's handy, right? But it's easy for somebody to just go, hey, I've got a list of email addresses. Let me keep in touch with people on a semi-annual basis and send. Yeah. I love the idea of home values or interest rates, or here's the quarterly market update of what's happening in our county or whatever. Super simple things. That's really awesome. So what I would love to hear is you guys made changes right away. What does business look like now for you guys compared to 6 months ago, prior to having to make any change 3 months ago? What is it that you guys are doing to create stability in your business? Because that's what you mentioned. We've got 6 agents. We've got salaried employees on the team. It's important for us to keep them busy, keep them working, and keep them having an income. So what does it look like for you guys now? Where were some of the big changes that you had to make in your business to continue to have a stable real estate business?
Yeah, so it's all the virtual stuff that we weren't used to. We're kind of used to it now because we've done it quite a few times, but it all started with, after cold calling, when you set an appointment, you're doing a virtual Zoom consultation instead of an in-person consultation, and it's tough. I mean, you can kind of read people's tone and facial expressions over the computer, but you don't have the body language. So it kind of changes your approach in what to say and when. It's a chess game, So that's one of the big things, the Zoom consultations, and then just constant follow-up. That's not so much different than before. We're always following up. We send thank you cards after we meet, and then just educating people. Like I said, everybody's under the impression that the market's dead, the market's slow. Educate them with stats and facts, not an opinion. So we'll show them stats in MLS. We'll show them the facts, like how the rates are at an all-time low. I use the stat that I gave you before we started the podcast here, that a couple of weeks ago in Rhode Island, there were more under contract homes than active homes for sale. So that super low inventory is gold to a seller. They're going to be busy. So for us, I'd say coming out of the winter, it hasn't really changed. It definitely hasn't slowed down. We definitely haven't had that spring spike that we're used to, but it's going to come. They lifted the stay-at-home order this past weekend, and we're already seeing some traffic come in. So I think it's going to get back to normal.
So it sounds to me like ultimately you guys didn't change a whole lot. You might have changed maybe the way you communicate, right? We're using Zoom now instead of knocking on the door and sitting down at the table. But ultimately, we continued to operate as normal, and that seems like it's paid off for you guys. Am I right?
Definitely. Yeah. Even servicing our sellers, we had a few sellers take their home off the market because of the fear of the whole COVID thing, which is totally understandable. And then some, they request that we do all the first showings virtual. So I'll do a virtual walkthrough with the buyers if they really, really like the house. We'll go back in person, no more than 5 people. Everybody's in masks and gloves. I'm the only one touching the doors, that type of thing. So that stuff definitely changed. So we're, in most cases, we're still showing a house, whether it's, it might be the second showing, but the only other stuff that really changed is inspections. A lot of times it's just the inspector there, and then they can either get on a video call or a phone call with their client and go through the report. And then closings are happening at separate offices. The realtors aren't allowed to go to the closings temporarily. But pretty much everything happens the same. Like you said, we're just doing a lot of stuff virtually now.
So let me jump in here, because you said something that I think is awesome. Is you said, look, the first showing has to be virtual, and then if you really like it, then we'll take them back to the property. And it sounds like you're doing what other people I've talked to are doing, where you're limiting the number of people, masks, gloves, booties on the shoes, that type of thing. A lot of times all the doors are wide open, or like you said, I'm the only guy touching the doors. But I love this idea of first showing has to be virtual.
Yep.
Right? Because I mean, how many times, just off the top of your head, how many homes does a buyer look at before they make an offer on one?
5 to 10.
Okay, so 5 to 10 homes. Do you feel like that's something that will continue even after things go back to normal, right? Do you feel like that's something that could continue and be a huge time saver to go, look, we're going to do a virtual showing first, then if you want to see it, then we're going to go back? Do you think that's something that people can implement long term that would end up being like, I mean, to me, that seems like huge time saver, right?
It's a huge time saver for us. It's a huge time saver for the seller. I would love to see it implemented, after the pandemic. But the problem is you wouldn't have an excuse for it, in my opinion. Like right now we're saying, because of the pandemic, we're going to do all first showings virtual. If you really like the house, you'll come in with the precautions and everything. But like, I've already had people, even with the pandemic say, oh, that's ridiculous. I want to see it in person. I'm like, I'm not saying you can't see it in person. You just got to look at the video first, make sure you really like it.
Yeah.
But I would love to see it implemented. It's great. It's, I've had people look at the video and say, oh, okay, maybe it's not for me. I don't like the placement of the bedroom. So, it saved us a trip, saved the sellers from the house for like a half an hour,
Yeah. So is that first virtual showing that you guys do, is that a video that you've gone through the home step by step, or 3D tour that you've done with camera technology? Both?
Yeah, we usually have the 3D tour on the higher end properties, but as far as the first virtual showing, it would be an agent like I did one in Situate. You go through the house, very detailed virtual tour. It's not like, here's the bedroom, here's the bathroom, here's the living room. I'm stopping in every room. I'm talking about the materials. I'm talking about the height of the ceiling. I'm giving the dimensions of the entire room. Telling them which direction it's facing, north, south, whatever. So super long, probably a 20-minute video that goes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it really gives you, because, we want to give the dimensions, because if they realize none of their furniture is going to fit in the house, I'd rather them say that beforehand than, at the appointment in person. Yeah,
I totally agree. We've got some comments. Amanda Smith, who's commented. Thank you, Amanda, for being here. She's I think Amanda's on every podcast that we've been doing. Welcome back, and thank you. She said, I really like that process, virtual first, then in person. I personally, I love it. I hope it continues after, because I think the amount of time for both the buyer and the agents and the sellers, right? You take all parties involved, and you take 20 minutes or maybe even an hour if it takes you to prep for that video, have that video, and then have it available. I think is fantastic, and I hope that continues afterwards. I hope that's something. I think that what's so great about the stress of the situation is that we learn new things, right? And we learn how to do things differently because we're forced to. And and when we're not under that stress and that downward pressure, sometimes it's easy to become complacent in our processes. And so I love that you go, hey, we do this now, and it works and it makes sense. And I go, why haven't we done that before? Right?
Exactly. It took a pandemic for us to figure it out.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I love that. We do have one question. He said, "Is this a video that you're just going and shooting with your cell phone or with your iPhone? Is it that simple?"
That simple, yeah. We do it with our cell phone. Start with the camera facing myself, and I introduce myself. I give the address, obviously the price, some cool facts about the property. Then I switch the camera around and start my tour. Right at the front door. Go in, first room, stop there, talk about it, and then just work your way through the house.
That's awesome. I love it. It seems like this is one of those moments for me that I'm like, oh my goodness, that is awesome.
I mean, if you want to get real fancy, do it with. We have a nice video camera that we could use, but a lot of times we're all off on our own and there's nobody there to hold the camera for us. So cell phone works better, but it'll definitely come out probably way clearer, and you'd have a bigger picture with a nice camera if you could manage that. Maybe after the pandemic, have a camera guy come with you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. I mean, professional photography is something that we often do on our listings.
Yep. All of our photos and videos for marketing purposes are done professionally. This is the only thing done on a cell phone. That's
awesome. I love it, and it makes sense, especially with as technology in the cell phones gets better and better with every release of the new model, right? It's pretty amazing. So somebody else, Steven Shipler, he's asked, are you using any special tools like a gyro or balancing feature, something so the video's real smooth, or you're just being real careful as you go through and hold it?
I would highly recommend that. The phone I have has a balancing mechanism.
Gotcha.
I don't know what to call it, but it's some kind of upgrade where you can literally shake the phone and it keeps the picture smooth. So that's what I use. And then we just use a selfie stick, so it's not like our face talking. And then we'll just bring it closer to us and flip it around to show the house.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. Is virtual first, then in person. It seems like such an easy time saver for me. Thank you. Let me shift gears just a little bit and talk about some of the other tools that you use to do all of this virtual. You guys saw the writing on the wall, started making changes. What are some of the technologies that your team is using to handle everything virtually the way that you're doing this? I love the idea of videos and even just uploading them to YouTube or something, and you can share the link. What other solutions do you guys have in place to have virtual business right now?
Yeah, so there's nothing new. It's all stuff we've used all along. We're just using it a lot more now. So you have Dotloop, which is like a DocuSign electronic signature program. We were signing most of our stuff through there. Now everything's through there. It avoids having to meet in person. We've been using Zoom, which I think everybody's been using for our consultations and big team meetings. Our CRM, we've built action plans in there to help with it. So it's just an action plan would be emails and text messages or a jumble of them. They just kind of go out ever so many days after one another without you having to lift a finger, to your clients. So it's
awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Do you see any of these continuing when things go back to normal? Any of these technologies that you'll continue to use?
Yeah. Like I said, all of them none of them are new. We've always used them. And because of the success we're seeing with them now, we're probably going to continue to use them this much, even when we come out of this pandemic.
That's awesome. Before we talked about, before the podcast began and you and I were talking, we talked about where you guys were getting your business from. And actually, you've got a member of your team who's on here, Joe, making comments. So maybe before I move on, they say, explain how we went paperless using the cloud.
Paperless using the, who was that, Mike?
It just says the Despirito team.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, they put the team name in there.
Using the cloud. Yeah. I mean, so we implement Dropbox in our systems a lot, and everything's super organized. Our real estate forms folder, every form is typable. So you can open it up and type into it and then upload it for a signature. So you don't have to print anything. Our open house, when we could do open houses, we used to have the paper sign-in sheets, which you can never read afterwards when you're trying to put the leads into the system.
Right.
So we ended up with Spacio, which is an open house app. There's a bunch of them. We really like Spacio because it ties into our CRM. So they sign in on a tablet, and right then and there, as soon as they hit OK, it builds them a profile in your CRM.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Afterwards, when you're going through, if you find out they're working with somebody or in contract, you delete them. But so that's another way we went paperless. A lot of our presentations, we've been working slowly on getting our presentations together into a tablet. So our listing presentation, our buyer presentation, they're kind of virtual now because we have to do it over Zoom. So it's just a matter of, telling ourselves we're doing it now. Let's just finish it and get it on a tablet, even when we come out of this pandemic, instead of bringing a big folder with all your listing paperwork in there.
And somebody's asking what CRM you guys use. What CRM is your team using?
Followup Boss.
Followup Boss.
We feel it's the most user friendly. I've used a bunch of them, and I just think it's the most user friendly. And for me, it's tied into everything we've ever needed it to tie into. There's never been an issue where it's not going to sync with something because I got to pull leads from somewhere. The support is awesome. You can chat with them right from the app too.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So I was starting to shift gears, and then I saw the comment from your team member there.
Okay.
But prior to all of this happening, tell me where your guys' business was coming from. I know that you guys are REDX users, and so cold calling is obviously something you've got expired for sale by owners. But so talk to me about that prior to the pandemic. Where was your business coming from? And then I want to talk about, has that changed since the pandemic?
Yeah, so I mean, we were, even before the pandemic, we were kind of at a place where we were getting a lot of leads from our SEO. People calling us saying, "Hey, I looked on Google. You guys have the best reviews. I want to work with you," which is awesome. That's the goal. That's everybody's goal in real estate. We have a lot of referrals from past clients. Either refer themselves or referring a friend, which is good. So we're in a good place with that right now. Prior to that, just like everybody else, we were buying leads, whether it be Zillow, Realtor.com. We were constantly cold calling. We still cold call, but we're cold calling a lot more. Expires, withdrawals, anybody that came in on our website, So it's a lot more organic now than it was, I'd say, like 2 years ago.
So how long do you feel like it took to get to that point? You mentioned 2 years ago. Was that 2 years that was spent building out these processes, building SEO, building online reviews and things about your team, or does it stretch even further back than that?
It stretches a little bit. So I started with Emilio on January 1st of 2016. It's such an easy day to remember, so I'll never forget it.
Nice. There you go.
And that day we started. There were no systems. He had piles of, and he's gonna laugh because I told the story in front of the company a couple months ago. He had piles of index cards on his desk, and I said, "What is that, Emilio?" He goes, "Those are all my leads." So that day, we started talking about systems and started developing the systems. And we worked very hard for a year and a half. I wasn't licensed. So I was full-time ops manager, designing systems with him. And we got a good base in place and, basically doubled the sales after the 1 year. And we've gone up from there since. Our system's a lot more sustainable now. There was one point last year, Emilio and I were both on vacation just by coincidence. We took the same week, which we always told each other we'd never do, but it worked out fine. The team ran. It's like, the machine kept going. That's
awesome. Talk to me a little bit more about the SEO. Tell me what that looks like. What do you guys do? How is it that you're getting business calling you, people that maybe you've never had any contact with before? So
there's one easy step that I think a lot of realtors don't do because maybe they feel funny, but it's asking for your review after you close.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I'm not going to go on and write somebody a review, even if they were amazing. I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to think about it. Not that I don't want to do it. So we have our transaction coordinator. has a templated email that he sends out the day after we close a property, asking for a review. And just that simple one email asking somebody to review you. Yes, they're moving at that time, but they're going to have that email in their inbox. They're going to go on, even if it's a one-liner, it's a review. It's going to go on your average. It's going to go on Google, Zillow, Better Business Bureau, wherever they're going to go. So super easy step you can do is just ask for the review. And then other than that, it's just, you got to be constant on social media. What's helping huge is our podcasts from our radio show, on SoundCloud and stuff. So that adds to it too. But Jade, our marketing coordinator, is really killing it for us on social media, keeping everybody engaged. She's keeping our page growing. Our views are growing. So definitely, I would say social media, super important. So
let me go back to the email that goes out. So because there's services, that you can use to gather referrals and things like that. But for you, is it's simple as, hey, we just send an email, we ask for the referral. Do you give them links in that email? If, click here to leave a Google review, or click here to leave on the BBB or whatever?
Yep. Super simple. It just says, hey, I forget the exact wording, but it asks for the review, and we have the direct link to our Zillow profile and I believe our Google profile. So we have to click on there.
It seems so simple, right? It seems like
you can write the review and you can copy and paste it into Google after.
That seems so incredibly simple that look, the number one thing you could do, just ask for the review. Because you're right. I think that nowadays when we do shopping online, the reviews is something we look at, right? We don't take the item description at face value. We go, I want to know what people are saying about this product, people that have used it. And so it's so true that the reviews nowadays are incredibly valuable, incredibly important, especially when those reviews come from verified clients, right? So somebody who can say, hey, I used the Despirito team to sell my home, and here's my review. Is those types of reviews go a long way. And all you're saying is you just have to ask for it. Like, most people aren't going to go on and do it on their own because they're moving, they're busy, life is crazy. But simply because you guys ask for it, you're gathering those reviews on a regular basis with every single client. And do you do that for both the seller and the buyer side of the transaction?
Yes.
And it's the same for either one. That template email goes out and says, hey, please leave us a positive review.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It makes so much sense.
Probably the last step on the checklist for our transaction coordinator. He closes the file and then sends that email out.
That's awesome. I love that. It makes it seem super, super simple. So prior to that question that I asked that popped up, right, as you're saying, look, SEO is a place for us. We were talking about where business comes from, and you'd mentioned that before having all these systems and things in place where it's kind of organic for your team now, you were doing a lot of these things where you're heavily prospecting, you're calling expireds and FSBOs, and while that's something you still do, that's not the main source of where your business is coming from. Am I right so far? Is that accurate?
It's probably 50-50. Like I said before the podcast, I think you referred to it as graduation.
Right.
Probably mid-senior year is what I said before. So we're still building our systems. We started a new project just recently about building an inside sales team to help with the leads in our database. So
and everybody, he mentioned graduation. Prior to this, we were talking about how everybody gets into real estate, and we want to have and build a real estate business where business just comes to us. Like that's the goal, right? Is that we can sit down in the morning and have enough emails or voicemails or people walk through the office door that provides enough business for us to survive, right? And not even survive, but thrive in our real estate business. So we were talking, Joe, about how a lot of agents, where you guys are, where you're starting to see organic, right? You've kind of graduated to the next level. And I think that's what all of us hope to do is we get into real estate, we kind of go, okay, what's next, right? We call all of our friends and our family, and we start to get business from our friends and family. And then from there, I think that's actually a stage for a lot of newer agents where they go, now what, right? Like what's next for me? And and then maybe they start to work some proven lead source like expireds and for sale by owners or prospecting geographically with something like GeoLeads. But every step that we take in our business, we're kind of moving to the next level, hopefully. And it sounds like you guys are in a good place where there's a lot of business coming in, as much as we're generating proactively, but there's a lot of it that's coming in organically because you've spent a number of years putting these systems and processes in place. That's correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. So we've talked about some of the things that have created a stable business for you guys. Tell me what it looks like moving forward. Tell me where you think. We've already started to see some of the states ease up on some of the shelter in place and that sort of thing. Yep. And while there are still restrictions, I think in every state, that some of that's starting to ease up. Where do you feel like the opportunity lies in, say, the next 6 months? As we come into summer, which is generally fantastic for real estate, yep. Where do you think agents should be spending their time to generate business? Maybe especially some of these agents and teams that aren't where you guys are, where you've already spent a number of years building systems to create a stable business. Yeah. Where do you feel like their opportunity lies? Where do you think they can spend their time to continue to generate and grow their business over the next 6 months?
Yeah, the most important time to have a busy summer is right now. Everybody's home as long as they're not an essential worker. And now's the time to get on the phone, like I said earlier, touch base, provide value, and just keep people engaged. So you want to be the top of mind when that summertime comes and that hose unkinks when they open up the states. You want to be top of mind when these people are thinking about buying or selling. There's talk of this possibly coming back in the fall. So that's another factor. So that's going to bring even more people into this block of summertime that need to reach their real estate goals because maybe they don't want to worry about it in the fall in case this thing does come back. So I think, opportunities now while everybody's out.
So, I love that you said, look, everybody's home right now. And I think that's an important thing for us to focus on right now is the fact that people are available. And a lot of people who are still working are working from home even, which means sometimes their availability is easier also. And I think that's an important thing, right? And I like what you said. Your busy summer starts right now. Yeah. Right. There's even maybe started in April or March, right? You spend a few months generating and filling a pipeline so that your summer months are full of transactions, which is really awesome. There's a couple of comments here. Somebody actually asked if you guys would be willing to share the email template that you guys use to ask for referrals. Yeah. I don't know how I can get it to you, but awesome. Well, maybe that's something that we could do here. Make that available if we can talk about maybe the details of that after this. Sure. After the live portion of the podcast.
It's super simple, 2-liner. But it's really effective. I'd be happy to.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. And I love that your team is on here. They're chiming in with comments and things, and they say, look, expireds and withdrawals are key, which is fantastic as we're talking about what's the opportunity moving forward. And so yep. I love that you guys are still, even though you're seeing business come in organically, I love that the Despirito team is still going, hey, we still pound the pavement, we still pound the phones, yep. and build sustainable business that way. And I think that a lot of that proactive mentality that you guys have, even that I'm just seeing through these comments, right? This proactive mentality that even though we're at that level where we've got organic growth in our business and organic stability, there's still this proactive element, right? Where you guys look, we still dial, we still pick up the phone, we still call, we still fine tune our systems and processes and things, and get better, which is really awesome.
We're never going to settle. That's our mindset. Once we get rolling, we're going to start thinking about and developing the next system. So that's
awesome. So you mentioned building out an inside sales team.
Yes.
And that's kind of the next project for the Despirito team is to build out a sales team. And we talked about that a little bit prior to the podcast. But ultimately the goal there is to have a specialized group of people that are following up with your leads, generating new leads, I would assume. Talk me through that a little bit more. And for those of you that are listening to this is something that on some level, I think everybody can implement, whether that's even setting aside a portion of your day to say, today is my, this portion of my day from 9 to 10 or 8 to 10 in the morning, this is my inside sales moment of the day, right? So, but talk me through that a little bit. What is that going to look like for the Despirito team in the future?
Yeah, so I mean, like right now, honestly, what you just said is kind of how we do it. We block time and we put on our inside sales hat and we make our calls. Because of the, between us pounding the pavement and the organic leads coming in, we have a huge database that 6 people have to go through, thousands of leads. So, and salespeople need to be out on the road closing new business. So with an inside sales team, you got all those leads that are being contacted. Nobody's fallen through the cracks, and your agents can stay out on the road doing what they do best. So that's really the goal there. And it's not like, if anybody else out there is thinking about doing something similar, we're not going to be able to just snap our fingers and we have a full inside sales team in their own office, making these calls all day long. It's going to start with one person, and then they're going to develop a system. Then we're going to bring on some people to work under that manager. There's just we don't have the time or the means to have the entire inside sales office, happen all at once. So it's going to take time. But we definitely think it's going to be a benefit because we all want to keep our agents on the road, closing business while we make sure our leads are taken care of.
Well, and I love what you said. Look, we can't snap our fingers. If you could, I'm sure you guys would, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if
absolutely.
we could turn that on and snap our fingers, we would. But I think there's an important element there that systems and processes take time. I mean, there's no silver bullet, right? Is things like this take time. We've got to figure it out. And I like that there's this long-term way of thinking that we go, hey, I'm not worried about the next transaction. I'm worried about the next 500 transactions and how we're going to get those. Because I think that really creates that. I mean, in fact, that mindset is probably what really helped you guys prior to the pandemic and making quick adjustments. Was going, we're not thinking just about the next one or the next 2 transactions. We're thinking about creating systems and processes that last the next 500 or 5,000 transactions that our real estate team does. I hope for all the listeners that you're maybe looking at that and going, hey, what are some of those long-term things that we can implement that might take some time, but I think that those are the types. That's the type of mentality, the frame of mind that helps people to build a long-term sustainable business.
Absolutely. We're 4 years in, Emilio and I are 4 years in, and we're still working on our system, our main core. You know what I mean? It's never going to be 100% perfect. You're always going to have adjustments. You're always going to have kinks that you discover that you have to solve. So we're still working on it to this day. It's like I said, it's pretty self-sufficient, but it's never done, and that's okay. You always want to be evolving.
That's awesome. Let me just ask maybe a couple more questions here about that, right? As we talk about evolving and adapting and the long-term thinking in our business, how do you guys approach some of those adaptations? Do you guys have formal sit-down meetings where you go, hey, here's the things that we're facing right now that are challenges. Let's brainstorm some ideas of how to do that. Or is it more let's when solutions present themselves, let's implement those? What does it look like for you guys to improve your business and your processes that you guys have in place?
Honestly, we're constantly asking for feedback from our agents and our team. Transaction coordinator, if something in his process is a little challenging and he has an idea, we more than welcome that idea. If our agents can have a concern with something out on the road, one of their processes on their checklist, we welcome any feedback or ideas. Emil and I constantly talk about this stuff. Just like, a couple Saturdays ago, we went on a Zoom call, him and I, for almost 4 hours, rewriting a buyer action plan for our CRM because the old one wasn't really working well. So we just welcome the feedback from everybody. We're open ears, and we try to get it done as soon as possible. But it's, like I said, always evolving.
So we've got Stephen Shipler. Thank you, Stephen, for chiming in again. He's asked a question. He says, can you share the percentage of your marketing breakdown? So how much of your is mail versus Facebook ads versus PPC, radio? I know you guys said that you've got a podcast, that sort of thing. Where does your marketing effort and budget kind of how does that split up?
I mean, the radio, the podcast and stuff is kind of separate. We don't even count that. It's there as a bonus. And like I said, we break up the segments and save them to a video library, and we use them when needed. A couple videos from there have actually saved transactions for us, educational videos. But I can't give exact percentages because I don't know, honestly. Better question for our marketing coordinator, but we do most social media and internet.
Okay, awesome.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was 90%.
Okay, that's awesome. That's good to know. We've got Pat Everson. She asked, when you're calling expireds while all of this is going on, and maybe this question is, we can broaden it a little bit, calling anyone as you're reaching out to maybe your sphere or expireds for sale by owners, how much has your script adjusted? Is it entirely different, or maybe just the opening lines? Or how has your communication with people on a very tactical one-on-one level, how has that changed during this time?
I mean, it hasn't changed much. Obviously, we had to adjust certain things we say about meetings and how showings are going to work, and, how the market is. I mean, there's sellers out there that want to sell, but there's also a lot of sellers that want to wait it out, and the same with buyers. So you can't go into a call and like, oh, it's an awesome seller's market, but you do have a lot of competition because we're in the spring. Like that line wouldn't work right now, especially when you're in a state like ours where there was more pendings than available homes. So
yeah.
In that aspect, it's adjusted. They might be expired because they didn't get the traffic they were hoping for because of the pandemic. So you obviously want to touch on that with them too, and say like, here's what we're doing so we can sell your house through this pandemic. Here's our new processes that we've adapted for this pandemic.
Awesome. I love that. I think that's really in line with what we're seeing for most people. Is they go, for the most part, the core of what we're talking about hasn't changed. Yeah. Obviously, the situation has changed, which means some of the logistics are different, right? We're doing things virtually. Everything now that's being signed is now being signed electronically, things like that. But for the most part, people's core objections are still the same for the most part. There might be this new one that, hey, we're gonna hold off a little bit. Yeah. But oftentimes that's similar to, somebody in November, December who says we're going to hold off till after the holidays, or we're going to hold off till spring, right? There's always reasons that people want to delay putting their home on the market, whether that's economic or civic or social or whatever's going on. There's always something that's preventing people from wanting to put their home on the market. But I think that's what we've seen from a lot of the people that we've put on this podcast is they go, actually, most of it's the same. Yeah. How we do it might be a little bit different. Yeah, but most of it is the same, which is awesome. Joe, thank you so much. If there's any last questions, if people want to get those in right now, but thank you for being with us today. I think we talked about some cool stuff. I love what you guys are doing. I love the idea of an inside sales team and specialization, and that allows your agents to be out in front of the clients and continuing to take listings and put those out there. We do have one last question. He says, it could be personal, but how many transactions is your team doing in a year?
145.
Awesome.
Was our highest so far, and 145. We're gunning for, I don't even know, 240, I think.
That's awesome. Yeah. And not letting COVID stop you.
No, we're pretending it doesn't even exist.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Congratulations. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I love seeing successful teams. I love seeing successful agents. I love hearing what people are doing. Joe, thank you so much. Joe, if you can hang out with me for a little bit, we'll wrap up with some post-podcast stuff. But guys and gals, thank you so much for being with us. If you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can email sales@theredx.com or marketing@theredx. You can also visit us on Facebook, on our YouTube channel. If you're one of our customers, log into Vortex, and you can visit us in the customer forum as well, where there's a ton of really good information about prospecting, about the REDX products, and we're here to help you. Thank you so much, guys and gals. This has been a fantastic 45 minutes. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, guys.